In this video, I'm going to show you how to write a paper 2A, just doing the A questions. I'll do the B questions in a later video. A couple things about the paper 2A. First up, or paper 2A is that you should probably only give yourself about 15 minutes to write a 2A. If you see here, you have an hour and a half to write your paper 2, but you have to write a response to 2 A's and 2 B's. Your B's are worth a lot more points, worth double the points of your A's. So you should definitely spend about double the time on those, I would say. So if you gave yourself 30 minutes each for your 2 B's, that would take up an hour, and then 15 minutes for your A's, that's your hour and a half. Obviously, if you can write these faster, write them faster. And one hint I would definitely give for a paper 2 is to pick your B questions that you want to write first, because they're worth more points, or pick your questions based off of the B, not the A, because like I said, the B's are worth more points. And then write the questions that you feel most comfortable with first. That way you kind of get in the flow of things. Well, let's go ahead and start looking at this. I'm going to be writing an American option response and an international option response. I don't teach European history, so I don't have that much familiarity with specifically the content they're going over, so I'm going to keep it to American and international. Now, quick notes about this one, because this one's slightly different than the way that it's set up for paper 1. European is first still, because it's still section A, and as you can see here, it's questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. The American option is on page 3, and it's questions 5, 6, 7, and 8. And international is 9, 10, 11, and 12. A quick reminder here, which you all should already know this, is that when you're doing your paper 2, you have to pick 2 questions to respond to and do both parts. So if you want to do the Civil War and the Great Depression, that's fantastic, but you have to answer the A and B from the Civil War one and the A and B from the Great Crash and Great Depression one. You can't say, oh, I really like the A on the Great Crash, the B on the Gilded Age, this A on the Civil War, and this B up here in question 5. You can't do that. You won't get credit for that, or you won't get enough credit for that to pass. Pick 2 of the questions, 5, 6, 7, or 8, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 9, 10, 11, 12, whichever option you're doing, and pick 2 of those questions and make sure that you answer both the A and the B from those 2 questions. That is a requirement. And one thing I've told my students, which might not be the best of advice, but one thing I always tell them to do, there's so much information in these 4 chapters, as anybody who's taken AICE history knows. I always tell my students to pick 2 of the units that they liked the best, that they felt the most comfortable with, and study them inside and out to know absolutely everything from the syllabus and from the potential past questions that could come up on this test, and make sure you study that, and then maybe look at a third option to kind of quickly study over in case you get a question on that one that you're really comfortable with. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the US option. The one that I picked to do on this one for the A was from question 8 here, which is the Great Crash, the Great Depression, and the New Deal from the 1920s to 1941. This question A is, why did the New Deal face opposition from both left and right? One quick thing about when you're doing your 2A's, remember the 2A's are always causation questions, as you can kind of see here on 8. You have why, 7, why, 6, why, 8, why, or 5 why, I'm sorry. So it's always going to be that causation question. You have to answer why. Typically, you really only have to give 2 well-explained causes and then say which was the most significant cause to really get high up on the rubric, at least to the level 3, which you need. Once again, an A paper, whether paper 1 or paper 2, only goes up to level 4 to the highest one, but 3 is still passing. So to get that 3, you need to make sure you give 2 well-explained with evidence causes, and then for your third paragraph, or an additional paragraph where you're really stating overall which one was the most significant, that's where you can get up into your level 4 range. So enough with the explanations. Let's go ahead and get to my response here on the American option question. And once again, if you're an international, I will be answering an international question as well. So once again, to repeat, our question for the 2A for the American option was, why did the New Deal face opposition from both left and right? My response was, The New Deal was such a massive program that impacted American lives and many aspects of the American economy that it was not destined to have total support from anyone. Programs needed to address the causes of the Depression as well as the needs of the American people. Programs such as the CCC and the PWA were aimed at putting Americans to work before the government and not private businesses. Programs such as the AAA added regulations to businesses, which, while aiming to help stabilize markets, treaded into murky constitutional questions. Furthermore, Social Security was intended to help those most in need, but at the expense of increasing taxes. The right viewed the New Deal as too radical, while the left argued that it did not go far enough to address the Depression. Many on the right, including the American Liberty League, felt the New Deal gave too much power to the federal government, was socialist and un-American. Meanwhile, the left felt the New Deal should have been far more radical. Huey Long, the governor from Louisiana, was the most successful at challenging FDR. Long proposed a Share Our Wealth program aimed at providing additional money to American families through higher taxation on the wealthy. Francis Townsend proposed pensions for all Americans above a certain age, and for leftist opponents such as Long, Townsend, and Father Coughlin, Roosevelt's New Deal seemed to be benefiting American business interests more than the average American. Overall, the most significant reason for the New Deal opposition from both left and right was the massive scale of the New Deal. The scope of the Great Depression caused Roosevelt to seek government-based solutions to the economic catastrophe and its effects. As a result, the New Deal would require compromise in some areas, but also leave numerous Americans of both leftist and rightist beliefs displeased. So as you can see here, I have directly addressed the prompt. I have given causes here for why the New Deal faced opposition from both the left and the right. I'm much more specific, obviously, in my second paragraph on the left and right part. However, that is also hinted at, maybe not directly explicitly stated in my first paragraph, but it's definitely there. You have that it was opposed because it was too massive, that it was going to go too far. I listed specific programs, such here as the CCC and the PWA, and I expressed why that would have upset some people. I also brought up two more New Deal programs in this one and what they aimed at doing and why it would have upset people. So I've covered that here. And then down here on the second paragraph, I've explicitly listed what the right was upset with, and I gave one of the right-wing organizations that developed during the New Deal, that was the American Liberty League. I said why they were upset with it. It gave the government too much power. They believed it was socialist and therefore un-American. And the left had a lot of opposition too. I specifically give examples of who on the left opposed it and why and what they wanted to do that was more extreme. And then finally, I gave an overall reason here, that the most significant reason for the New Deal. So I've covered every aspect of the rubric. And if you're not that familiar with the rubric, please go ahead and view my original video on the AICE Paper 2. I do go over the rubric in detail on that one. Now to go over the international option for Paper 2A. I chose to do question 9, which was 9A, which was why did the United States declare war against Germany in 1917? If you're taking either one of my these classes for the American or international option, you might see that I did pick probably the two easiest of the 2A questions to do on this one. But if you disagree, I hope that you can at least look over these questions and see what maybe the types of questions that are definitely going to be asked on your AICE exam. Though I will let you know that this was the most recent of the AICE exams. This was the one from 2018, the October-November sitting. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to get these questions, but they do like to attempt to switch it up just a little bit, just so you know. But let's go ahead and look at my response to question 9A. To recap, the question was, why did the USA declare war on Germany in 1917? My response was, the USA initially attempted to stay out of World War I. America was isolationist at the time of the outbreak of the war. However, in April 1917, German actions brought the United States into the war. America maintained a right to trade with warring nations after the outbreak of the war. This put American citizens and merchant ships in the path of German U-boats, which were actively patrolling the North Atlantic. The 1915 and 1916 sinking of passenger liners, the Lusitania and the Sussex, caused the deaths of numerous Americans. Additionally, this started to turn American opinion in favor of war. In 1917, Germany amped up its unrestricted submarine warfare and once again began sinking any vessel nearing Britain, even if it was an American merchant ship. Germany additionally raised the ire of American citizens through the Zimmermann Telegram. This attempted correspondence with Mexico was aimed at drawing the U.S. into war against Mexico and keeping the United States out of the war in Europe. Another cause for the USA declaring war on Germany was Russia ending their participation in the war. Russia's participation in the war prevented Wilson from proclaiming America was fighting for what he would have called a moral cause. By Tsarist Russia's exit, the remaining allies were democracies. Wilson was able to proclaim in his request for a declaration of war that America was aiming to, quote, make the world safe for democracy. Overall, the most important cause of the USA declaring war on Germany was the actions of Germany. German U-boat warfare killed many Americans and sunk numerous American vessels. Also, attempting to convince Mexico to declare war on the United States in exchange to regain land lost in the Mexican-American War upset many Americans. The American public was angered by Germany's actions and gave Wilson the capability of pushing the U.S. into the conflict in Europe far more than a call to protect democracy. Quick overview of what I did here. If you see here, I started with a little bit of a little intro about the United States staying out of the war initially and why the United States stayed out. So it helps give a background that the United States wasn't war hungry at the time World War I was going on. I specifically state that Germany helped cause the United States to enter the war. I provided specific evidence of things Germany had done that upset the American public. With the sinking of the Lusitania and the Sussex, the sinking of American merchant vessels, and then, of course, the Zimmerman telegram, which really upset Americans by arguing that, or attempting to get Mexico to declare war on the United States so that it could regain all those territories lost in the Mexican-American War. Now, I give my second cause, which you might actually be able to pull off separating these into two separate causes. That was probably, if once you read this question, those are probably the first two things that came to mind, and that might actually work out. But I gave these I combined the German unrestricted submarine warfare and the Zimmerman telegram into one so I could actually fit more causes into this to provide more information. If you have time to do that, by all means, go for it. So my second one, I'm arguing the call for democracy that Wilson was really trying to push for. So that would be the ability to do so because Tsarist Russia had fallen and was out of the war. And I wrap it up by arguing that my most important cause of this one was the war on Germany, was the actions that Germany had taken, because I think this really is your strongest argument to make here. Now, definitely go with, whenever you're looking at your causes here and you're coming up with this, say, third paragraph on which one is overall the most important cause, go with whatever one you have the most defense for. You don't necessarily have to be right. You just have to back it up, because this is a kind of a judgment call on this one. It's, do you have the most evidence for it, and you can really support your claim, so go for that. This one, obviously, I was able to pull Germany as being the most significant cause and really able to back it up. And why here at the beginning, if you notice it, I kind of reiterated that this was more important and significant than the democracy call that I brought up in the second cause, because the American public's anger is what really gave Wilson the capability of declaring war. Well, I hope you all found this video useful, and it'll be able to help you prepare a little bit better for your Paper 2 AICE History exam. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to respond to you. And as always, if you would like more AICE history or just history in general videos to watch, please like and subscribe. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you once again for watching.